Peace, peace, peace. We are back, Knicks and Bruises. Sorry for the delay. Sorry I missed you guys on Monday, but I had a good reason. Peace, Queen. Peace,
Hey,
Sim.
Peace, my brother. How you feeling?
I'm good. I'm good, man. I'm excited. We just watched the Cam interview. We just watched the Obi interview, and we gonna talk about that probably in length. But I do want to start by acknowledging that I was wrong. Um, it seems like Derrick Rose is gonna be an integral part of the team from the jump.
Oh, without a doubt.
Uh, it doesn't look like he's gonna be limited in any uh facet
hmm
unless it's injury based.
Right.
um, he also looks like he's, we talked about it in previous shows, the best shape he's been in since like rookie year.
hmm
Uh, so I mean, the elephant in the room because of that is again a topic that we've talked about intensely. What does that mean for Quickly? What does that mean for Grimes? What does that mean for Cam? Um, and I guess right there we could start with Cam. You know, Sim, you did the interview or you did the show earlier, or the little snippet.
Yeah.
Talking about Tibbs and his response to questions about Cam and Cam being in the rotation and things of that nature. Um, that was a little discouraging. I ain't gonna lie, coming from a Cam fan. But
Yeah.
Cam's interview kind of opened up my mind again. Made me think about it a little bit differently. And then it made me think maybe the clean slate means something different for every individual player. You know what I mean? Maybe the clean slate for Randall is different than the clean slate for Cam. Maybe Cam's clean slate is different from Jalen Brunson, who didn't even play here last year. You know what I mean?
hmm
Maybe the clean slate also has to do with Tibbs and some things he learned from how he handled some things last year. In particular, you know, Kemba Walker, maybe he learned some things in that and how to adjust with player management and things of that nature. But all in all, I'm excited. Um I'll start with you, Sim. I'll go last. We'll go to Queen. Um what was your take on the Cam Reddish interview? And did it
Um,
change anything from how you felt or what you thought prior to?
I mean, I think he understands, or at least he can verbalize what he needs to do. Does he internalize what he needs to do? Is obviously the next question. Um, I think he knows what he has to do. The question is, can he do it, and will he do it? You know what I mean? Uh, he said, it's got to start on defense. He said that he's, you know, in one aspect, he said, in the summer he worked on, talked about what he worked on, pull up dribbles, uh, you know, shot creation, threes, mid range, et cetera, et cetera. And he said, I'm not worried about defense because that's grit and effort, and I know I got that. And then, in the a little bit later on, he's talked about um, defense is what he's going to have to do to get that spot or get into the rotation. Right, that's where it's going to start. It's going to start on the defensive end, um, and he said he knows he can score. Right, so he's got to make sure he does it defensively when he's out there in training camp. So it sounds like he knows what he has to do. Knowing what you have to do and actually doing it, two different things. So let's hope that he can actually do it. I will say this, he told the story about him not requesting a trade, but when he was asked, if he, I don't know if he was asked the question directly, but paraphrasing, does he want to be in New York? And how does he feel about, um, the glut and all that kind of stuff. He kind of did the politician thing. What I'm saying, which leads me to believe he is concerned about there being so much depth at the wing position, and he may not have requested a trade, but I still believe internally, maybe not to Leon Rose, he expressed concern about there being so much there, and him not having a defined role. And then of course he's trying to figure out what his role is. So there's some things there that still lead me to believe there's maybe a disconnect between him and Tibbs as far as what his role is, how many minutes he should be playing, and he's a good guy, so he's not obviously he's not going to come out and say anything crazy. Even in Atlanta, it was quiet when he requested a trade and said he wanted out. It was quiet. Nobody knew anything about it. So he's not that kind of guy that's going to lash out. You know what I mean? But I think there's some concern there because he feels like, in my opinion, I think he feels like he's a star, all-star. He can be an all-star, has the talent to be an all-star. And so if he's not getting the minutes, I think that's going to be an issue for him and his team. You know what I
And
mean?
real quick, when you say concern, you're only referring to for him personally, or do you have concern as a fan? Watching the games and just knowing the glut. Are you concerned at all?
Am I concerned about Cam?
Cam, or yes, Cam, but over about the team. So do you think he could be overlooked, or do you think he can earn it and then find his place?
Man, I think it's going to be an uphill battle for him to find his place. I do. I think he's really going to have to come out and show that he can lock down tremendously. And then, on the offensive side, I'm not worried about it on the offensive side, really, because I do think he can fit in anywhere, anyway, offensively, because I think he has that skill set to do so. He can slash off the ball, he can go off the dribble, he can run on the break. You know what I mean? So I think he can do just about everything offensively. Defensively, and the effort is where he's got to get it. And, can he convince Tom Thibodeau that he's going to do it night in and night out every time he steps out there on the floor? You know what I mean? We'll see. Kerry Cox said, do you think Evan put a banana peel in front of Grimes' locker? It might have been Cam. It might have been Cam because that's his competition in that rotation spot.
100%. 100%. That is his competition. We're gonna talk about that soon. Queen, what was your takeaway?
More about his relationship. Well, first of all, I love his interview. I love the way he handles himself. I loved his answers. And, I don't really know him that well. Well, we all don't, but have a good feel for him. So it was just good to kind of see him sit down and answer the questions to get a better feel for him. But I was concerned when he said he's not sure what he needs to do to get more time. He's not sure what he needs to do to get in the rotation. And I just feel you should know. And I'm not saying it's on him, but to Sim's point, maybe there's some sort of disconnect between him and in the coaching staff that he doesn't know. And that could also be a way of him saying, I don't know why I'm not a front runner. That could have been a way of him saying, like, I don't know what I need to do, because I'm better than these guys, so yeah. So that was the takeaway, that I think his playing time is in jeopardy, and I don't think it's because of his talent. I think it's just probably because he's not in Tibbs' circle of trust. Excuse my dog. Yeah, I mean, KFTV did the interview with Alan Hahn, and Alan Hahn talked about Cam, and he said that, from what I got, paraphrasing, he doesn't seem to be the guy that comes in early and leaves late. Um, and Tibbs is somebody that basically sleeps there. He beats everybody to the gym. He's there when everyone leaves, and maybe Tibbs is not seeing him, you know, coming in early, leaving late. And when you think about how crowded that wing position is, why should I play you? These guys are coming in early, they leaving late, they busting they behind, they putting in the extra work that I can see. Not saying he's not doing it away from the facility. Why should I move you up ahead of them? So maybe there's some of that as well.
Good stuff, Queen. You you did bring me down a little bit off my high, my you know, my high from the interview. But I'm a I'm a take, we disagree on things all the time, and it doesn't change anything. So I'm gonna take what you said, and I'm gonna hold it. But I'm not gonna let it bring me down right now, because I'm
Okay.
I'm feeling good about what Cam said. Um, and to your credit, I think it was, whether this is better, worse, or good or bad. I do think he was saying, not, I don't know what to do. Like, the coach is not telling me, but like you said, what else can I do? Like, yeah, I don't know who I am. I think
Right,
it was more of that
right.
um internal mentality, and I think for him, a guy whose motor has been in question, he definitely needs to keep that part. You know what I mean? That for him, saying, last year, oh, I feel like I'm an all-star, I feel like I could be a star. He needs to keep that. You know what I mean? Especially when, the questions with the motor, question with the coming in early, staying late. I'm not saying it's not true, but I mean, we know the reputation of these other young guys. You know what I mean? We know these other young guys. Like, we've heard it extensively from numerous people. Yo, they're here late. They're here early. They're here after the game practicing because they had a bad game, etc. So, I mean, you got to pick up on that, Cam. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta you you gotta you gotta join the parade. You know what I mean? Like, you can't be the odd guy out, and
Mhm.
relying on your belief in your own talent. You know what I mean? Put that work in. A couple other things that I noticed that kind of stood out to me. Sim, you pointed it out. He said he didn't request a trade, but they did ask him about wanting to be in New York, and he never said, yes, I want to be here
Right.
directly. But
Right.
in his answers, he also referenced being here and being blessed. I'm in New York. You know what I mean? Like, so that was one of the first things he said after saying I'm being blessed, as a reason of being blessed. I'm here in New York. So I think he understands the opportunity that is here in the market of New York, is here with this team. Um, Obviously, he saw us in the playoffs, so he knows what that atmosphere is like. He was an opposing teammate or opposing team, but he's seen it, so he knows
Yeah.
what that atmosphere is
And
like,
he played well
and he
in the
played well.
playoffs. Played very well.
Yeah.
Absolutely,
And
Yeah.
absolutely.
I also took it the other way too. You know what I'm saying? That, listen, I'm blessed. No matter what happens, I'm good. Whether or
Hmm.
not I play, whether or not I'm on the New York Knicks or the Utah Jazz or the Cleveland Cavaliers, I'm good. Like,
Yeah.
I'm making millions of dollars playing a sport that I love. I'm good. And I mean, that's looking at your life.
Hmm.
That
Right.
is a great mentality to have. Looking on the basketball court, it may not be the best mentality to have.
Well, let me go a step
Right.
further, Sim, because one of the other things that he said that stood out to me, which again for me, he talked about winning above minutes, winning
Mm-hmm.
above playing
Mm-hmm.
time.
Mhm.
So to me, that's a step. It doesn't necessarily say that he's surefire wants to be here. He's surefire, you know what I mean, doesn't want to be somewhere else or whatever. I think he understands it's a business. I think he understands those things are kind of out of his control until free agency. You know what I mean?
Right.
When it's totally in his control,
Yeah.
unless unless it's a what do you call it, where the Knicks can match. But
I,
I think that's big that he's saying if we're winning, I don't care if I'm paying.
right.
I mean, obviously, I'm
I guess what I'm getting at there is some of his words made me feel like he's content. I'm in the league making money. I'm
Mhm,
content with me. And then if that could cause somebody to question his drive.
mhm.
If you're content, how much drive do you have to be the best? You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying he doesn't have it, but
Right.
if you're content, how much drive do you have? And I think it could cause somebody to question that. You know what
Yeah,
I mean?
I feel you. I feel you. I'd rather him that though than the other side where it could end up being something that spoils the locker room. You know what I mean? Like, oh, why I ain't playing? Oh, I should be above this guy, or now because of a personal beef between you and your individual teammate or two teammates. You know what I mean? That are ahead of you. You know what I mean? Because or even even crazier. He's like, I'm better than RJ. I should, you know what I mean? Like I'm the most talented. Like it could get crazy on the
Yeah.
other hand, on the other end.
Yeah.
I think it was pretty balanced. I
Hmm.
think it's, hey, I know who I am. I have the skills. I have the ability. It's beyond my control what I when I
Right.
play, how much I
Right.
play.
Right.
I
And
am content. So I think it was a bit balanced.
look,
And I think that
yeah.
was
One thing
really
that
good.
really did stick out to me though, is when he said, I'm gonna be in your face and I'm gonna make sure you know it. That was encouraging for me
Make it
when he
hard.
said that. I'm gonna be in your face and I'm gonna make sure you know it.
Right.
That was encouraging for me.
Yeah. My
Yeah.
man Josh, Uncle Fulio, you gonna do the dance? You-
That joint stiff as a mug, man. It's super stiff. You look like Super Mario about to
Hey,
jump over a mushroom. I'm just messing with you,
I
Josh.
like it though, man. Keep it.
Very, very funny, Toad. Okay. Um, good evening, everybody. How y'all doing?
Good.
Peace, King.
I definitely want to comment on this Cam thing, and I agree with Sim here. Um, Tony, I get where you're coming from, and I understand you're the optimistic one as always. And Cam was one of your favorite guys on the team, but we're still after that interview, after that press conference, questioning his motive and questioning his will. Listen, I think he was honest. I don't think he said anything that was um, not true, but I just would have rather seen Cam be a little bit more, I'm coming for it. And he mentioned that a few times, little hints here and there, but I'm coming to come in this rotation. My talent is going to win out no matter what. And show a little bit more of a confident side. And I think your fear about the potential negative ramifications of that is kind of hyperbole. I don't think, him saying something like that or even hinting at something like that could potentially damage the locker room or, damage the relationship with him and RJ. I don't think that can be in the works at all. I mean, there's nothing wrong with a player being confident, knowing what he brings to the table and telling everybody that I'm going to prove that I deserve to be in the rotation. The other thing that you said was, he did say that he wanted to be in New York, but like Sim said, he said that after he said, I'm content, I'm happy. And then he said, I'm happy with being in the NBA, being in the league. And then New York was kind of an afterthought, right? I know we spoke earlier in the offseason in regards to the Berman thing and everything like that article that came out. But to me, I just believe that's semantics, right? Because you cannot formally request a trade and say that I'm going to be somewhere else. So I don't like the current situation that I'm in, right? And I think it's very easy during this time period to kind of play those semantics with the media and things of that nature. So, I mean, we'll see. But he definitely has to prove a lot to Tom Thibodeau in order to get in that rotation. No doubt about that. And I'd rather him be a little bit more aggressive and forthcoming with that.
I mean, I I think they're all valid points, and I think we all want the best from him. I think
Absolutely.
ultimately him being who he is personality wise, I think we're only gonna see that. If we see it, it's only gonna be on the court. You know what I mean? It's not gonna be in the press conference or in the interview. I will say this, similar to what you were saying, Queen. I feel like this is 6 minutes. This is probably the most we've heard from him. Maybe it just feels like that because it's the off season and it's been a
Right.
break. But I feel like we got more out of him in this 6 minutes than we did collectively in the 15 games that he played. Whether if he spoke after or whatever the case. And that was encouraging too. Um, but yeah, I do hope he does get the clean slate, the fair shot. Um, we talked about his ability or his potential and what we see in him. Now's the time to show and prove. One last thing on him, he did also mention, you know, looking forward to the competition. Who doesn't like competition? So I think now he gets a fair shot at the very least to compete in a training camp, in a preseason, in that whole off season preseason situation where he didn't get to do that last year. So I think he'll have a better chance than he did coming into that trade situation or coming off that trade situation where everything was solidified. He mentioned it himself, COVID, injuries, a lot of things factored in to him even seeing the court. You know, now I think he does get that fair shot. And I'm a true believer that he's the only real wing or small forward, true small forward that we have. So um
And he still
I
can't get
look
on the
forward to
floor.
that. Yeah, yeah.
So I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, he can't. He doesn't have to prove it to us, really. I know we're commenting on it. He doesn't have to prove it to myself, Sim, you, or Queen. He needs to prove it to Tom Thibodeau. That's pretty much who he has to prove it to. And like Sim mentioned, we know, and Queen mentioned, we know what Quickly can do. We've seen him get out there on the floor, and we know what he can do. Right? He has that reputation of staying after practice. Showing up early, leaving late. Same with Quentin Grimes. And I think that's what Cam Reddish kind of needs to do. And I want to see him kind of move forward towards that. Kind of go out of his comfort zone a little bit. Nothing wrong with going out of his comfort zone because I don't think what he's doing right now is working. If you ask me, it's not. It's not working. This content type of mentality, he needs to be a little bit more aggressive. And being aggressive doesn't necessarily mean being a cancer in the locker room.
Fair enough. I mean, I agree. I wasn't saying it's that'll definitely happen. I'm saying it could lead to that. Um, and
Well,
and that was what me saying him being extreme, which again is out of his character. So it's unlikely. Like Queen mentioned, even him requesting the trade in Atlanta was quietly. The only reason we knew about it is because Atlanta leaked it. Then
But
he
can
got
I can I
questioned
just
on
can
it.
I just say something
Then
real
he
quick? Like
spoke on it.
I'm comfortable with the Knicks being all friendly, Obi laughing and all of that stuff, but the Knicks need some nasty. They need a little bit of that. I feel like that's what this team is missing. We spoke about it last season at length. Needing an enforcer. I'm not saying one person has to be that enforcer that this team doesn't have, but they laugh too much for me. I'm sorry. All of that laughing and it's just kind of
They
too easy
kids.
going. They don't fit. All of them
They,
collectively as a unit. They don't, for me, reflect the coach.
mm.
Not as well as like the Chicago, like the teams that Tibbs had in Chicago. You know what I mean? Kind of nasty. You know what I mean? I just kind of wish this team had a little bit more of that.
Well, I
I agree
mean,
that's missing.
yeah,
I agree it's
it
missing.
is. It is. They let the one guy that was nasty, they let him go. People gonna, Alfred Payton was nasty. I ain't gonna
And
listen.
that's a
Not
fact.
that I'm not, saying that he needed to be the Knicks start point guard, but he brought some of that to the team. You know what I'm saying? I mean, you seen him, plenty of times. You seen him, just have a little bit of attitude. You seen what he did with Jay Crowder. Like he brought some of that to the team.
That's my favorite.
You
That's
know,
my favorite play or top 5 play of that season.
yeah,
What he
brought
did
some
to
of that.
Crowder.
That also got Steve Mills fired, by the way. But
Hey, that's two birds, one stone right there.
Yeah.
Jeffrey Claster said his shooting was nasty. There's no doubt about that. that man couldn't shoot for nothing. He couldn't make a 2-foot layup, but he played tough though.
But I mean, moving on. Unless anybody want to add anything else about Cam.
Yeah. Well, Grimes is in a walking boot. I think it's precautionary.
Yeah.
So he might get a shot. Depending on if he's
He might.
really injured. He might. We might see more of him.
And God forbid, you never wish that on anyone, whether it's the opposing team, definitely not your teammate. But he's aware that this is how opportunities arise. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah.
Grimes' opportunity came because of these same situations.
Correct.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
mean,
it's a part of the game.
I think the one thing that Cam really has going for him is that he is the only true small forward on the team. That is actually a small forward in length, in size, in athletic ability, in versatility. He is that guy. And I think he does have that going for him. You know what I mean? And giving at least one reason why, if you're the coaching staff, you have to look at Cam. You know what I'm
I
saying?
agree with you, but I just don't see Tibbs as that type of guy. Like I think Tibbs would put in Derrick Rose at power forward before he put in somebody that he doesn't trust and who he doesn't think is going to give him, what he needs out there. So I think any other place it would bode well for him. I'm not sure how much it's going to help him here.
You might be right.
Oh man, I wish him the best, man. And I think we need him. I really do. I think he changes, similar to what Hartenstein brings.
I don't
think
know.
he brings a dynamic that we don't have elsewhere on the team.
Yeah. I don't know if they have any connection at all, but Rick Brunson's been coaching in Camden, New Jersey for how many years? 8 years, maybe?
Yeah.
Right? And Cam Reddish grew up like 30 minutes away from there. Maybe they're familiar with one another. I don't know if they're familiar with one another at all, but maybe there's a world where they're familiar with one another and maybe Rick Brunson can push some buttons.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that's also another thing that and Josh, I could hear your reaction in my head already. But some guys do need to be pushed, right? Some and Sim, maybe you could attest to this more as a coach. Some girls need to be pushed a little bit harder than some others. You know what I mean? And some thrive off of it. I'm not saying he does or don't, because I don't know, but in the aspect of, if there is a disconnect or if there isn't, and he feels there's a disconnect, that could hinder him. And we're gonna move on to Obi next, and I think part of that was some of the things that hindered Obi last year. But yeah, I think having a guy in his corner, having a coach in his corner, pushing him and saying, and having you feel like, oh, coach believes in me. Sometimes that makes a world of difference.
I mean, we'll talk about this more when we get to Obi. I agree with you. I just think on this level, you leaving it in the hands of someone else. Like you leaving it in the hands of getting on the right team with the right coach that can.
Right.
And most of the ones who are successful, when I say self-starters and self-motivated, it's not like they don't have family and friends and coaches and trainers and what have you, but it takes a lot for them to get down on themselves for a significant period of time. Like they know what they need to do. If nobody is around, they getting up at 5 o'clock doing what they need to do. You know what I mean? So I think that could help, But what are the chances that that's going to be there every step of the way throughout your NBA career?
Right.
And the situation where the team doesn't necessarily, the rotation is pretty much filled,
Right.
and the coach doesn't trust them. I mean, I agree with that, Queen.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
No, I agree too.
Yeah.
I agree too, because
Yeah.
we'll move right into Obi, but that was part of the things that I was saying about Obi last year. It was really about self confidence. He can't, or as the fans like to do, we can't blame Tibbs on some of the things that we saw going wrong with Obi. That was all internal. That was him having to have that confidence, whether it's 5 minutes or 15. That was him having to have that confidence, whether he shot an air ball last shot and got pulled, or you know what I mean,
Right.
or now he's turning down a shot because of the previous one or the previous game or whatever the case.
Right.
It sounds like he's picking up on that. It sounds like he at least acknowledges confidence, self confidence is gonna make the world of a difference for him. Um, I guess I'll start with Queen Josh Sim. What were your takeaways from the Obi interview? 11 minutes.
Yeah, it was. I mean, I think that we got it right when we was talking about him the other day, in terms that the confidence is probably what was getting in the way with him all along. I mean, he looked that bad during his freshman season. His rookie season. Um, he looked like he didn't even know how to play. And in hindsight, that was just probably lack of confidence, as more so than lack of skill and ability. The success he had at the end of last season, like he talked about, gave him some confidence that he's hoping will carry him into the season. I just hope he doesn't hit a rough patch real early, because I don't know how big his confidence and how strong his confidence is at this point that it could withstand a 10 game, just not playing well, the fans turning on him. I don't know if it's at that level. So I hope he does come out, play extremely well, and his confidence becomes stronger and stronger, and then he might be able to withstand some adversity.
And similar to him and Cam, probably Obi to a lesser extent, but who he probably felt like who's the next power forward after Randall. Now, granted, Randall was getting a lot of minutes, and that was the majority of the reason for Obi not getting the minutes. But he's in that same position where I don't know if we have a true power forward behind him. You know what I mean? So you got to seize that opportunity. The same way I feel with Cam. There's not a true small forward behind you. Seize that opportunity. You know what I
Obi
mean?
has no competition though.
It,
At
I mean,
least
you,
Cam, they
you
can go small.
yeah. Well, you could argue us going big with Hartenstein. We haven't seen it. We don't know what it will look like. But we you know what I mean. So I think. I mean, like looking at it from Tibbs' perspective, he'll find somebody to put there if you know what I mean, if he's not going with the guy we want in particular. You know what I mean? Like we see him put Burks there. Burks wasn't a point guard. You know what I mean? We see him um we're talking about putting Grimes there. In my brain, Grimes is not a small forward. He's more of a true two guard. But so Tibbs will do it. He'll put somebody else there to if he feels like that's the better option. But to your credit, you're right. Hartenstein is more of a center. There's really no competition for that backup four spot. So you shouldn't have that confidence issues.
Something
Did you?
real quick
Yeah.
before I move on to Josh. When he talked about he was working on his defense by defending the guards, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like it needs to be a bit more structured than that, You switching on to a guard in a pickup game, okay. I don't know. So I don't know if I would consider that work,
Mm.
working on it.
I agree.
Unless maybe when he was doing it, he was super focused, that, okay, this is an opportunity for me to practice. This is an opportunity for me to really focus. in a way, I kind of get that, but I just think he needs structured work on his
Yeah.
defense.
I agree, but in his defense, I think that the structured defense, I think that comes in season more than anything else. Um,
A structured work.
scrimmages and the 5-on-5s, but
I mean,
he
structured
brought it
work.
from 5-on-5 down to 4-on-4, 3-on-3, 2 1-on-1. I think he made some good points about the defense and guarding these guards and just knowing that I'm able to switch. You know what I mean? Like now I'm not a liability in these situations moving forward, or at least like he said, figuring out if I can't move my feet fast enough, how can I maybe position myself quicker? How can I still figure out how to stay with these faster guards or smaller wings? So
Did you feel encouraged? I didn't feel encouraged
no,
listening to
no,
him.
no, no,
Yeah.
no, 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 no. I agree. It wasn't like all right. It wasn't like all right. Let's go. You know what I
Right,
mean?
Yeah.
right.
But it's still something that I think he's gonna see a lot of. So that's just one. He had a lot to work on defensively, right?
Right.
That's just one
Yeah, yeah,
aspect.
yeah.
Like hopefully that wasn't the focus of his defensive. If
Work.
that's the case,
Right,
I agree with you
right,
because yeah, you're gonna need a lot more than that overall.
Yeah.
right.
Can I
But
follow up with that real quick? Because
absolutely,
I really agree with Steph here. The work, like what they asked him, okay, how do you work on staying low?
Right.
And he said, oh, I just went out there on the guards. But that's not how you work on staying low. I mean, there are drills, there are structured drills that you can do to help you work on staying low and moving your feet while you're low. You know what I mean? And he wasn't able to say, well, I did drills like this that focused on me staying low. Drills like that focused on me staying low, moving my feet, taking long steps, cutting off the guard, and making them turn in the opposite direction,
Right.
cutting them off and making them switch. I worked on, switching my feet. I worked on pivoting when I cut the guard off. Like these are things that you can actually work on in practice that are really, really structured, and you're doing it repetitively, because you can know all day long that I got to switch out on this guard, but if you haven't built the foundation to be able to do it, then you're not going to be able to do it. You
The
can know
muscle
that you got
memory.
to do it,
The
right?
muscle
You got to have
memory.
muscle memory. You got to have the skill set to be able to do it. So you can know all day long, yeah, I got to get out on this guy, and I got to figure out how to stay out there. Well, how do you figure out how to stay out there? You figure out how to stay out there by working on strategies while you're in practice. And I didn't really uh get the sense that he worked on it, like really, really had structured work on
how much of
staying
that?
low, moving your feet, and things like that. Maybe he did and he just doesn't know how to verbalize it, you
Yeah.
know?
How much of that is his responsibility, and how much of that is like a failure in the coaching staff, or
And,
even
and the
even
offseason,
in
it's
his
on
I
him.
think I think ultimately is always his responsibility.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Even if he doesn't feel like the team is giving him what he needs as far as development, then it's like I got to go get it myself, because it's all gonna fall on. It's gonna be his career. If he
no
plays or not, it's gonna end up being on him.
I agree with that 100%. But you and Queen, and
Mhm.
for me, I feel like you guys are speaking more from a coaching background, coaching experience. Um, if you're the player and you don't, because the question was asked, well, how do you work on defense? To me, if you don't know that, how like you got somebody has to teach you that. Somebody has to show you that. Somebody has to
He has
say, all
training
right,
staff
look at
though.
these. But that's what
Right.
I mean. How much of that is directly on him, and how much of that is on coaching staff, trainers, training staff, personal trainers, all that. Now, granted, it still ultimately falls on him. He's the is his responsibility. He got to figure it out. It's his career. It's his life. You know what I mean? But I still think it's a valid question. Like even if even if it's on him to figure it out on his own, I think it still reflects badly on the coaching staff that you didn't give him these tools to go work on in the off season.
No, Tony, I disagree with that. So in the offseason, particularly for professional basketball players in the NBA, they hire people to come help them get better. And that they train with them in the offseason and tell them things that they need to improve on. And ultimately, it is Obi's responsibility more than the person that he hired, because he's hiring that person to train him and get him in a better position, particularly in the offseason. During the regular season and during the course of an NBA season, fine. It is on the coaching staff for putting him in positions where he can be able to succeed. But come off-season time, that's a lot of players' time to either go on vacation or be in the gym and hire a trainer to help them and prepare them for some of the stuff that they may be lacking on. So, I'm not going to give Obi an out here. I think this is on Obi, and me knowing Obi and not knowing him, but listening to him throughout the past couple of years and hearing him talk to the media, Obi's up front. He's up front. He doesn't really hide anything. So to me, what I heard from him is exactly what Sim said. He didn't really hear the structured work that needed to be done in order for him to take his defense to the next level. That's just my opinion on how Obi verbalizes things and what he said during that.
And Tony, I do agree that the coaching staff, on your way out the door for the summer, here's some things we need you to work on. Right. We need you to be able to get out on guards and defend guards out in space.
Right.
We need you to not let guys go back door. Boom, 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 boom. Now you go to your trainer and say, here's my assignment.
And you got to have the right trainer.
You got to have the right trainer. Here's my assignment for the summer. This is what I need to work on. And for him to be able to, I'll say this. This is just me. I feel like if you worked on something, if you worked on getting low, he would be able to say, me and my trainer did this drill, that drill, and that drill.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe he doesn't go into detail about how he shifted his feet and those type of things, but we did this drill, that drill, and that drill, and I did it repetitively over the summer. That's how I focused on being low. Instead, he just said, well, in scrimmages, I got out on guards, and I know I got to be out there. You know what I mean? And Jay Williams is asking, who says that, this and that. I'll tell you, Cam said it, right? They asked Cam, what did you work on? He said, I worked on going off the dribble. I worked on pull-ups off of the three, dribble pull-ups from the three. He said, because in Atlanta, it wasn't really stressed, but it seems to be a little bit more stressed here in New York. So I worked on my pull-up dribble off the three. He named specific things that he worked on, what he was drilling on to get better. You know what I mean? I'm just saying, I didn't really hear it from Obi in that aspect. And I'm not saying he didn't. I'm just saying maybe he didn't. Maybe he doesn't know how to verbalize it. RJ went into detail as well about some of the things that he's worked on. But he was specifically asked, like, these guys, Cam, RJ, they were asked what did they work on, not how did they work on it. Obi was specifically asked, how do you work on staying low? And I feel like
defended the guards.
Right. And I feel like if you worked on it, you would be able to say, this is what I did to work on staying low. So those are two different questions. What you worked on and how you worked on something, I think, are two different questions.
Yeah, I'm gonna get right back to this. Shout out to Walter White for the super chat. He says Cam needs to link with Obi, IQ, and Rose and get his mind right. We're building a culture, and these moments are where it shows up. I agree. I mean, I kind of just mentioned that a little while ago about watching these guys who've been here a couple years and picking up on some of the tendencies and habits that they picked up on. And not for nothing, I don't remember who exactly said it, but I remember them saying like, oh, this guy, and this guy's in the gym. I'm like, I'm not gonna be the one that doesn't show up. You know what I mean? Like so that's why I was there. Like that wasn't my intention to go work out after the game or after practice. But I see these three guys there. I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna be the one that coach could be like, hey, why didn't you show up? Why wasn't you there? So I mean, I think he does have to pick up on that. and follow those guys lead.
So,
My last point with the Obi thing, and then I'll go right back to you, Josh. The reason I was saying that is, if you recall when Stoudemire got here, who defensively is probably comparable, I guess, to Obi. um, one of the things he said was, you know, I was never taught defense. You know what I mean? Like I was never. It wasn't a focal point. And again, it's not me shooting bail to Obi or even condoning Stoudemire saying that, but he said it, and it opened, it opened my eyes to, like, man, you've been in the league how many years, and you saying the reason you're not the defender you feel like you could be or should be is because it wasn't taught to you. You know what I mean? So
Tony, Amari Stoudemire, first of all, never went to college. He came straight out of high school. And then he played on a Phoenix team that was never known for their defense. It was never a priority for him to even improve on his defense. We're talking about Obi going into his third year, right, for a coach that is a defensive coach. A defensive coach, and this is not the first time Obi's been asked questions about defense. Now he wants to improve his defense. Last offseason, I'm pretty sure he was asked the same thing. And coming into the NBA, those are the question marks that he had coming out of college. Right. So I just think that it is more on Obi to improve on those things. And listen, I'm not optimistic about Obi playing defense. I think there's a way for him to get better, but I've already accepted that, he still has a long way to go. What I do want to say is I am encouraged by some of the things that Obi said in regards to how he's going to play with Isaiah Hartenstein. Right. I am very encouraged by those two, that pairing, that 4-5 pairing coming off the bench, because, Hartenstein's ability to pass the basketball, stretch the floor a little bit, I think that opens up those cutting lanes. You heard Obi refer to cutting and slashing to the basket. And I can just envision this in my mind right now off the bench, those two working a 4-5 game. Obi slashing to the basket, Hartenstein finding him on the back door, or the Knicks running some of those type of plays off the bench to help Obi improve in the half court from an offensive perspective. So I'm very encouraged by that, and I look forward to watching those two on the floor together.
Yeah, that's no doubt. That's no doubt. We were talking about that last night, right, Tony? It was last night.
Yeah,
we were talking about Hartenstein, being able to get on that mid post, that high post, and get guys cutting to the basket.
I know. I heard.
Yeah, he was in the chat. Josh was in the chat. He was in the chat. Trying to throw some shots. I seen him.
Hold up. Obi is not not even close. I was only referencing.
No. Somebody in the chat said Obi is better than Stat. So that's
come on. Stop it.
Goodness.
Stop it, man.
Okay, Kev is bugging. You know how nasty Stat was? Come on,
Stop
man.
it.
Kobe doesn't have an inch of the nastiness. Josh was talking about we don't have any players that got that nastiness.
Right.
Amari Stoudemire had that nastiness. You know what I'm saying? When he went to the lane, he was hoping that you jumped so he could bang it on you. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Obi don't have any of that. Tony, can I put something on the screen real quick?
Absolutely, always.
The coolest said, that's like asking a boxer your game plan before the fight. Why would you reveal your technique? Talking about Obi and how he trained.
Terrible comparison.
I don't think that's a good comparison at all. At all. I mean, he already gave away his strategy. He already gave away his game plan. His game plan is that he's going to get out on guards. So he gave that away already. Right? Asking someone how they prepared, I don't think that's not giving away your game plan. Boxers do it all the time. They talk about, you see the training videos on how they worked on their power, how they worked on their speed. That doesn't mean that they're giving away, well, I'm going to try to make him rotate to the left.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Or I'm going to stay low and get inside because I know he's weak in the midsection, whatever. That's your strategy and your game plan. Working on your power and telling how you built power. That's not your game plan. That's just telling how you built up your power.
Right.
or you lost weight or gained weight or whatever it is. You know, Mitch got that nastiness.
Any anything stood out to you, Sim, in this Obi interview?
Um, Anything really stood out in the Obi interview? Not really. I think the biggest thing that stood out is that every time Obi speaks, there's something that has to do with confidence. That's the big thing.
Right.
That's what I was thinking about the entire
Right.
video. There's always something that has to do with confidence, and that just concerns me.
Right.
You know what I
And the
mean?
Monica
That
McNutt interview as well.
yeah, it concerns me, and what it tells me is that coaching staff, people in his corner are like, you got to be confident. You got to be confident. You know what I mean? If you miss a shot, so what? Be confident enough to take the next one. And it's that's a tough thing. You know what I mean? It's tough when a player loses confidence or doesn't have confidence. It's tough to play. Tony, you remember when we asked Walt about Frank? What'd he say? He's not confident. Doesn't have confidence. He's got the tools, but he doesn't have the confidence. I'm hoping it's not like that with Obi, and maybe he can build the confidence. But right now, I think it's apparent and clear that he's got some confidence issues.
Do you have the same type of concerns that or is it concerning? Does it alarm you? Like the way the Cam interview and those dynamics was alarming.
What do you mean?
I mean, because again, I feel like I think it's very similar in what we want from these guys, right? As far as
Mhm.
confidence, Obi has to hold that and hold on to that at all times. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't matter what the minutes was. I mean, I said this last year. He can't worry about how many minutes he's gonna get. He only has to worry about performing in the minutes that he gets. That'll dictate how things
Right.
change moving forward. But he had to have that opportunity down the stretch where he wasn't looking over his shoulder to build his confidence.
Yeah. See,
I,
see,
I
I
think
don't.
I think the same thing can be said for Cam. He just hasn't had that opportunity. Like he was hurt down the stretch, so he
Yeah.
didn't get that opportunity to build his confidence and kind of
But see, I don't
um.
think Cam has a confidence issue. You
So
heard Cam. Cam is
uh,
like, when I was in high school, I knew I could ball. I didn't have to compete for a spot. I'm in the NBA.
I
I
know I could
still know I
ball.
can ball. I still know I can hoop. I just got to compete for a spot now. You know what I'm saying? So I don't think he has a confidence issue at all. I think he's very confident in his game and feeling like, that's why he feels like he can be an all-star. So I don't think Obi's confidence comes from not playing. I think it's vice versa. I think not playing comes from him not having confidence. So I don't think it's like he's looking over his shoulder and that's why he's not confident. I think he just misses some confidence in his game.
Well, I was referring to the motor with Cam and then the confidence with Obi.
Oh, okay. Okay.
You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
Like
see what
because
you're saying. Right.
like because I mean we don't question Obi's motor at all. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
Hmm.
we hear
Right.
about him
Right.
being in the gym, staying late, da 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 da. So what I'm asking is, are you as concerned with Obi and his confidence issues as you would be with Cam with his motor issues?
It's a good question.
Ah, that is a good question. I think I might be. I think I might be. I really think he's not as confident in himself in his not in life, but talking about the basketball court, not as confident in his game and what he can do. I think, yeah, I mean, I noticed it from the time he stepped in the NBA, he's there were times when he could he could have went off the dribble, but he didn't want to break the offense.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Um, you
Or not
know,
looking at the rim, not looking
not
at the
looking
rim
at
and
the
just
rim, not even
setting the
looking
screen
at the
and
rim.
yeah.
Exactly. I'm handing it right back off and set this little screen. That always concerned me from the time that he stepped in the league. We'll see if it becomes any different this year, but that always concerned me a little bit.
I want you guys both to answer the same question, but I'm gonna add on to it. And maybe Sim, you answer this second part first, and then we'll move on to Josh and Queen. Do you think it's easier to which one do you think is easier to fix? It instilling the motor in Cam, or instilling the confidence in Obi?
They're both hard to fix.
Yeah.
They are both very, very hard to fix. You know, at the very least, for me personally, I can point to some steps on how you can build confidence, right? By starting off with little small goals, accomplish that small goal. You know, now you move up to another goal, accomplish that goal, get better in this area. You know what I mean? Okay, now you got you got better and you mastered this. Let's move on to the next level in that specific area. Um, so I can at least point to that. Still doesn't mean that a person is going to be confident. They can accomplish all of these goals, and something inside them still makes them feel like I ain't gonna be able to get it done. And they don't have that confidence. Motor, I don't know if you can. It's always easier to have someone who's has a real high motor to bring them down to bring up someone who doesn't have a motor. It's hard it's hard. You can see someone who doesn't have a motor, and maybe in spurts they can do it, right? You know, you start to get on them, and then okay, for a couple of plays they do it, or they're in practice, and you know, for the next 3 practices you really see them put it out there, but then sooner or later it tails off. You know what I mean? That the motor thing is, I don't know if you can do it, man.
I think they both are based off results, right? So if a guy starts to step up his effort, step up, I don't know if you could step up your motor, but let's say step up your effort, right? And then results come from that. Now you continuing that effort. You continuing to push. You continuing to try to sustain that. But I think the same can be said with the confidence. You know, if you're confident, if you work on that confidence, or you have that good game, or for Obi's case, that good couple of games down the stretch, that confidence is up, right? So now, if you continue to field, obviously he's not going to get the same results because the minutes won't be the same. But if he continues to field the same type of results in the minutes that he gets, I think the confidence continues to build. And
Right.
the only problem is, for me personally, I feel like confidence can get crushed easier than, like, once you gain that confidence, it could get crushed in an instant by any particular thing. If you build that motor, I don't know if you ever lose that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I just don't know if you can build the motor. That's the thing. I don't know if you can build the motor. And I feel like someone who has a low motor, they might have high talent, low motor, and their talent gets them to a certain level, but then they just don't have it to go to the next level, and they get content. Oh, well, I'm here. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, I don't know.
I think it's equally tough when you talk about motor versus confidence within itself. But Tony, you specifically, Matt, asked about Obi's confidence and Reddish's motor, right? And I think this is easy. We've seen Obi improve in his confidence over from the season number 1 to season number 2, the summer league, the first summer league that he did, or you know, this second year summer league that he did, and then throughout the season, his confidence started to grow. Right, you know, towards the end of the season when the Knicks really didn't have anything to play for, he had some confidence toward the end of that season. You got a guy like Cam Reddish who is not even in the rotation at all, and he's just like, I'm good. I'm in the NBA. I'm making money. I'm good. You know what I mean? So if that doesn't motivate you and that doesn't increase your motor to get on the floor, I don't know what else will. I mean, literally, I just don't know. So for me, specifically for Obi and Reddish in the situation, I think it's more likely than not that Obi could improve his confidence, and we'll see more of a jump in Obi's confidence level compared to Cam Reddish's motor. I do agree with you, though. I think that confidence, you can, you can crush someone's confidence. You can bring it back down. Whereas motor is much more difficult to lower someone's motor. I do agree with you on that. I think that's a good point.
Yeah.
Can I ask?
Can I just wanted to ask a question right there, real quick. Who is Groot? Because I keep seeing Kerry Cox say Groot.
They're referring to
Groot,
Obi, but I don't know what that means though.
Okay. Just wondering. Just trying to figure that out.
Is that like I am Groot? I am Groot from that Galaxies of the Guardians of the Galaxy.
I don't know.
Maybe they're saying he's stiff like a tree. That's the only. I'm trying to put my rapper brain on.
He's talking about Obi. I just don't understand the reference.
Right.
Yeah.
I think they're saying he's stiff like a tree. That's the only thing I could think of. Yes,
okay.
I am Groot.
Okay.
For this season, though, listen, if Obi, is still going to be very slow with his defensive improvements or what have you, I'm comfortable with that, at least for right now. He still has a long career to go. Still has a long, time in the NBA. He has time to work on some of those things. But for what he is and what he can contribute to this team, I'm a little bit more encouraged from an offensive perspective. Him being in that second unit, I'm definitely encouraged by that. Playing with Hartenstein. Queen.
Yeah,
what was the question you want me to refer to? The motor and confidence, or
what is one more concerning than the other, and is there one that you think can be fixed easier, or
I think confidence can be fixed a little easier. I think they're both tough, but I've seen people gain confidence over time now. Some people time is a season and other people time is 2-3 seasons. I've seen it. People get motor. I've seen people come out with motor for a few games and you just kind of fall back to what your baseline is over time. It's just kind of hard because you basically have to be extremely intentional about it every single minute that you're on in every single game, because it's not your natural way of being in the court. So I would say confidence, both are tough, but I think confidence has the edge.
fair enough. I titled this show and you think things went left last year, and I'm referencing Brunson, RJ, Randall, all lefties. Do you think there's any validity to it being a disadvantage of having so many lefties on the team? And I've only heard that from mainstream media, not not the blogs, not the the YouTube channels and things of that nature. I'll let you go ahead, Josh.
I'll go. No, I don't think there is a disadvantage at all. And I've heard people within the Knicks community say that a lot as well. Maybe not the majority, but I definitely have heard some people say, well, it looks kind of clunky having 3 left-handers on the court. To me, the way I look at it, I mean, you got lineups that are all right-handed, right? I mean, I don't understand what the difference is. The hoop is still going to be in the middle of the baseline, right? The floor is still going to be the same. This is not like football where, you have to move personnel around, your left tackle and your right tackle, or the hash marks hash mark is how you're going to snap the ball to run a play to the wide side of the field. The court is still going to be the same no matter what. You just run the plays, differently. Put players in their right spots. 3 lefties on the floor for me. To me, I don't think it's that big of a deal as people's making it seem.
Right.
I'm sorry. I wish
if anything, it's an advantage, like Jeffrey said.
Yeah.
Right.
I wish I could put 2 comments up at once, but that's the first one. Oh, I missed it. My bad. Randall's easy to guard.
I don't know about that.
I love the chat.
Yeah, the left hand thing doesn't bother me at all. I agree with Josh. It doesn't matter to me, especially if you can go right. I mean, just like a right-handed player, if you can't go left, then everybody's going right.
Right.
I mean, listen, most of the players that I've ever coached were right-handed, right? And I had players I had point guards who, this guy was the best point guard on my team, and I would still have to tell him, I need you to catch the ball in the left corner because I knew he was going to go right. So that way, when he got pressured, he had the entire court to go right. You know what I'm saying? Instead of catching the ball on the right side, and then he dribbles right up to the corner and gets trapped. You know what I mean? To me, it doesn't matter. If you can go to your opposite hand, you can go to your opposite hand. If you can't, you can't. You know what I mean? So it doesn't matter to me if everybody's funneling to the left or, whatever you want to say is going to happen to the offense. If you got right-handed guys, then everyone's going to be funneling to the right. I don't think it matters at all. If anything, if anything, maybe it gives a problem to defenders, right? Because most people are used to guarding right-handed players.
And that was going to be my next question. Can it be an advantage?
Yeah.
Queen, you feel the same?
The same. Feel the same.
All right. I think we could wrap it up, man. I like to keep it around an hour. We did the hour. Appreciate you guys joining me. Next week, Monday, I'll be back on my regular time. Any last words? Any shows coming up? Josh, we gotta have a controversy coming
this weekend. This weekend doing a controversy during the storm. During the storm, I will be doing a controversy this weekend. Stay tuned for a special guest.
Okay. All right. Cool.
Mhm.
I mean.
Oh, me?
Oh yeah.
Monday, Queen's Court. On Nothing But Knicks. Tuesday, Just Nicking It. Dope Soul Sports Talk. I'll probably be dropping a few videos on what I'm looking for each particular player coming into this season. Probably 5 minutes. I'm trying to keep them really short, and then probably Tuesday the 18th there'll be a preseason show on Dope Soul Sports Talk as well.
Nice.
Yeah. I mean, I was actually thinking about going on a little bit later tonight just so I can do my daily training camp wrap up or training camp, day 2. So I might go ahead and do that anyway, maybe 10:30 or so. Other than that, I'm just trying to, stay up with anything coming out of training camp, dropping those small, short videos when things come out, just to try to keep people updated, as to what's going on and happening. So, that's really it. On Tuesday, though, I'll be back with the pregame show, the game preview, and then the postgame show and all of that. So it's going to be, nice to get back in the fold, knocking it out. You know what I mean?
We all gonna have to adjust our bodies and our, our sleep schedules and all that.
That time already.
Yeah,
that time already.
The morning show, Wednesday morning, the post game, probably be short. I was gonna do the videos, but I think it's just easier to go live and make it really short. The video, when you start editing it and things like that, it just takes more time.
Steph, that's how I started going live. I used to before I ever went live, I was doing these, pre-recorded videos. And it was like by the time I would get the video out, it was time for the next game. And I was like, man, I gotta figure out how to do this. Is too much. I gotta figure out how to go live. And so I went live one night. It was like 75 people on. I was like, oh snap. People really do want to hear what we talking about. So I just from there, I just figured out, well, how can I make it look like it's edited? And I just kept figuring it out and going live ever since. I do some pre-recorded ones, but when I do that, they're quick ones.
Right. Yeah, I agree.
Because the editing is too much.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question though? I know Tony, you about to get off. Let me ask a question real quick though. Do y'all really think Isaiah Hartenstein has a shot at starting in the starting lineup for the New York Knicks this season? Y'all really think that?
Not this season.
I'm gonna say not to start the season. I'll say that.
Well,
my
I think
is that Mitchell Robinson is not on the Knicks in 2 years, and Hartenstein is the starting center for the Knicks.
I say this.
Resign him. He's only under contract for 2 years.
Queen, why you always do that to me? Wait till I find a player.
He has a good really block rate, for his minutes. He has a good block rate. His rebounding percentage and all, for the minutes that he plays.
Yeah. I'll say this. I think it's Mitch's job to lose.
Right.
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 I think Mitchell Robinson is the starting center.
Mm-hmm.
But if Tom Thibodeau sees some things that he really likes from Hartenstein and starts to figure out, hey, he actually works better with this lineup and Mitch works better with that lineup, then maybe he switches it.
I think
That's
that would
all I'm
be.
saying.
I think that would be a failure from the organization. The contract, Mitch's contract, if that happens, I think that would be an adjunct failure if Mitchell Robinson comes off the bench after you just signed him for 4 years at $15 million a season.
$15 million ain't that much money, Josh.
For someone
Josh,
coming off the bench with no offensive game, that's
when
a
you
lot
do
of
that
money.
controversy,
It's
when you
not.
do that
I don't
controversy,
think it is.
please invite me on. Please invite me on, because
Yeah.
I
He
seen
fits
you
better
in
with the
I seen you
starting
in the
lineup.
chat the other day talking the same stuff, and yeah, man, it's always about team first. So
It's about the lineups, man. I mean, what if Mitch is still getting 30 minutes a game?
Off the bench?
Yeah.
Why not start him then?
Because maybe it just works better with Hartenstein starting. I'm not saying it's gonna. I'm just saying, if the situation arises and it just works better that he's in that starting lineup, but Mitch is still getting 30 minutes.
I mean, I just don't know. I'm
It
not
could
paying.
happen.
I'm not paying a center $60 million to come off the bench and he has no offensive game whatsoever. I'm
do
just not doing it. I think that's that would be a terrible mistake by the organization.
but
Looking
the
back,
thing is,
obviously.
they
You would
already
start
paid
him
them.
just because of the money, even
They
if he
already
wasn't
paid
the
them.
best fit.
Well, I'm talking about. I'm not saying I'm starting him just for the money. If Hartenstein does turn out to be the better player for the starting unit, okay, fine, do what you have to do. I'm just talking about looking back on the contract that you just gave him. That would be a failure. That part right there.
But that could happen anywhere. A rookie could come in and outplay a veteran who's getting paid, and
Right.
then what? Does
Right.
that mean?
But
Does that mean you made the mistake in signing that veteran at the time? You know what I'm saying? Like,
you can look back on it and say it was a mistake. You can easily look back on it and say it was a mistake. Because basically what you're saying is you had the opportunity to go get someone who fits better in the starting lineup, and you paid someone else who doesn't.
But we didn't know because Hartenstein is he would have to show it on paper. You would say,
Right.
"Well, it looks like he would fit better with that first unit." But you can't just not sign Mitch because on paper it looks that way. You have to see him, bring him in as a backup, see him, see how it works out, and if it does, you're not gonna have a problem moving Mitch.
I just think if you had those questions, and 4-year contract was way too much. If you have those types of questions,
the thing is,
but the question shouldn't arise because of Hartenstein. The question was there already for a lot of people anyway. You know what I mean? So I don't think you should base it off of if Hartenstein starts or if Hartenstein outplays him.
I'm basing it off of Mitchell Robinson coming off the bench, and you're putting a $15 million a year player with no offensive game off the bench. That is not good. That's no NBA. There's not one NBA team that has a $15 million player coming off the bench that can't score. There isn't.
But that's not a reason to keep him in the starting lineup, though.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's not a reason.
And he can score. He's just
no, he can't.
He's not.
Stop, Tony.
I mean, he didn't average 0 points in his career, so he can score.
Neither did Frank Ntilikina, but okay, gotcha.
He scores the way he scores.
I'm just talking about looking back on the contract. That's all I'm saying. If Hartenstein's the better player, start him. But knowing that you signed Mitchell Robinson to a 4-year contract, I think that's where the failure really lies more.
You didn't know
I think my only argument is I feel like you shouldn't have to look back. You could look at Mitch right now and say who he is with obviously a little bit of improvement here and there. I mean, I said it rookie year. Mitch doesn't have to improve a whole lot offensively to be a 10-year starter or even a 10-year backup. Like you know what I mean? Like he's elite at what he does. That's his attributes. That's you know what I mean? That's who he is. We can't ask him to become somebody he's not.
I'm not.
I mean, we can have a whole other elite. He's an elite offensive rebounder.
Therein begs the question: why give him a 4-year contract?
1.8, rim protected too. Um, yeah.
I mean, because at the time you're like, this is this is our guy, and then someone comes along, you're like, oh, wait a minute, we like this guy better.
Hartenstein was a free agent before Mitchell Robinson's contract was signed. Sam, that's all I'm saying.
True, but if you
have questions about Mitchell Robinson being your starting center, why give him a 4-year contract?
No, but what I'm saying is maybe they didn't have questions. But if you sign a player, and then that player makes strides, and you're like, okay, this guy actually works better. We love what Mitchell Robinson did or does for our team, but this guy works better with this group. You know what I'm saying? So at the time, your mindset might be, this is our guy. Mitchell Robinson is our starting center for the next 4 years. We're signing our starting center for the next 4 years. We're signing this guy as a backup. But then all of a sudden, your backup you think fits better. Right? So you say, your coach is like, well, I'm going to go ahead and start this guy. And I just got to have a discussion with Mitch and say, you got to come off the bench.
Let me ask you this, Josh. If Mitch doesn't finish games and Hartenstein finishes games because of the free throw shooting, because of him opening up the floor and things of that nature in closing moments, do you feel the same way about it being a bad contract because Mitch is not finishing the game?
No.
So it's only about starting?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, people argue all the time that it's about who finishes, not about who starts.
So,
Alfred started and didn't finish most games.
So wait, hold on, Sam. You did mention what if Mitchell Robinson still plays 30 minutes a game and Hartenstein plays less than that? I'm assuming, right? But Hartenstein starts the game. I just never seen anything like that before at the center position, ever.
It's been I've been done like that in other positions.
Yeah, but not the center position though. I've never seen that before.
But it's been done. But it's been done. It's been done in the league. I mean, I'm sure you could probably point somewhere and see some center who started just for jump ball. You know what I'm saying?
Manute Bol or somebody.
and then other guys came in and played.
That's
what I mean. It could happen. Hey, we're going to start this guy. We want him in there for the first 6 minutes of the game. Talking about Hartenstein. Then the first 6 minutes of the third quarter, right? And then we see what happens in the fourth quarter, right? And the other time Mitch is playing some with the starters and some with the bench. Like, it's ways that it can work. And you still might have Hartenstein playing the last 6 minutes of the fourth quarter. And that ends up being 24 minutes. Or maybe he's playing the last 4 minutes of the fourth quarter because you like his free throw shooting and things like that. So he's still getting those, however many minutes per game. I mean, there's ways that you can work the lot, you can work it so that he's playing in key moments with the group that you want him to play with, but then Mitch is still getting 30 minutes. You know what I'm saying? It's ways that you can do it, ways that you can do it.
I just never seen it before. That's what I'm saying. Never seen
I'm just saying sometimes fit. You hear Tom Thibodeau say it all the time. It's about the lineups and the fit, not always about who's starting and who's coming off the bench. A lot of people get caught up with that. And I could tell you from experience, I don't have experience in the NBA, but you've seen it in the NBA plenty of times where the better player comes off the bench because they want to have that bench punch. I mean, you see it happens.
Yeah.
Six men get paid more than the person that starts over them though.
Sometimes.
And they can score off the bench.
Sometimes not. Sometimes not.
Let me highlight this.
In year 4, Mitchell Robinson is going to make $12 million in year 4. So when you get farther down that line, that contract is going to be nothing.
Then they can trade him.
Oh, shout out to Walter White again with the super chat. If Hartenstein is as good a backup as y'all say he is, Mitch will start and finish. I don't know if that meant Mitch will start and Hartenstein will finish, or Mitch will just start and finish games. But yeah, appreciate the super chat. Appreciate everyone in the chat. Appreciate you guys for joining. Sim, I'm gonna eat, and you said 10:30.
Yeah, 10:30, 10:45,
I,
something like that. I'm about to set
I,
up
I,
now.
I'll rock out with you.
All right.
I'll rock out with you. Um,
Not today,
appreciate you
son.
guys.
You do the
Yeah,
early
I
shows. I'll
know.
be there.
I know.
She over there yawning. She like, oh man.
It's all
There you
good.
go.
When you do the
Queen,
earlier ones, I'll be there.
Queen, definitely appreciate you. Coming in
Absolutely,
with the
absolutely.
change of schedule and time and everything.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, don't take it for granted. Josh, you're always welcome. I don't even got I'll send you invites here and there, but if you free and you see I'm on, man, you jump in the room. You're always welcome. Yeah, I think that's it. We out of here. Till next week. Go Black, it's time.